Welcome along then to a brand new show here on the Racing Post YouTube channel. We are going ringside, Racing Post ringside for the biggest fights. And on Saturday night, an absolute monster. Chris Eubank Jr. taking on Conor Benn at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Two heavyweights of boxing betting join us. Henry Hardwicke and Gareth Freeman, both from the Racing Post. Gentlemen, how are we? Henry, you looking forward to Saturday night?
Yeah, really looking forward to it, Dave. Can't wait. Obviously, following their father's footsteps, aren't they? We've had a bit of a break since the seniors were in action. But yeah, really looking forward to Saturday night, and it's a good card as well. The undercard looks good, and also I think really good. It's in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, so we should get a good atmosphere. Unlike some of the bigger fights that have been in Saudi more recently.
Yeah, Gareth, we are 35 years on from the fathers setting foot through the ropes. I think we're about 2 years on from the original fight. Everything that's gone on there, we'll try and keep the egg puns to a minimum here, chaps. But it's marinated nicely, this one.
Oh, very good. It's there's a lot of animosity here, isn't there? Sort of ahead of the first fight, I wasn't too sure. Maybe that rivalry was a little bit contrived, but now you feel like it's definitely on, isn't it? They really don't like each other after that first suspension. So I'm expecting absolute fireworks this weekend for sure.
Yeah, we're hoping for fireworks on Saturday night. Let us know what you're thinking ahead of the fight, what are your views, the undercard as well. We'll go through the whole lot on Saturday night. It's a 5-fight card. So jump in the comments. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe here on the Racing Post YouTube channel. Henry, give us a little bit of context here then. We've got two fighters that are at different weights. They're at different stages of their career. They're different ages. Outside of their surnames, these two are not getting in the ring together ever, are they?
No, definitely. I mean, that's a good point when it comes to betting on a fight. I mean, the fight wasn't made because it's a good match. You know, you've got two fighters in the same weight division. Obviously, Conor Benn has spent the bulk of his career at welterweight. Chris Eubank has been up to super middleweight. So, you know, it's not a case of it's a good match or there's a mandatory challenger for a world title or, you know, Benn is the fighter on the up and he's ready for a world title shot and this is way into it. You know, the fight is happening because, you know, frankly, because of the money involved and off the back of the history of the fathers. So, you know, I think that is worth considering when it comes to betting. And I think, you know, there's every chance it might not be that competitive.
Right, let's have a look at the tail of the tape then before I throw to Gareth to talk weight. Not your own, Gareth, but the two of the gentlemen stepping into the ring. We are at ages 35 and 28, Eubank Jr. and Benn. Height, there's a 3-inch advantage, although when they measured up in the weigh-in, looked a little bit more than 3 inches, but 5'11", Eubank, 5'8", Benn. Reach, Eubank has got a 4.5-inch advantage there as well. Records, right, 34 fights, 3 defeats, 34 wins, 3 defeats for Eubank, and Conor Benn is 23-0. But it's fair to say, Gareth, that Eubank has certainly fought at a higher level than Benn, who's very much, competed at a lower level. He's yet to fight for a recognised title.
Oh yeah, I mean, you look at Benn's record, and he is unbeaten, 23-0. But I mean, he's Samuel Vargas. Maybe that's a big name on his record, and Chris Algieri. Sort of beyond that, you're sort of clutching at straws, aren't you? The two guys he's fought over the last couple of years since the first postponement. I mean, Peter Dobson was unbeaten, but still 16-0, not a huge fighter, not a huge name. But like Eubank, he's mixed it with everyone, and his losses have only come against good fighters. You could make a case that the Smith fight was an upset, but, you know, he's a former world champion. He's been in the ring with Canelo, so he's a serious guy, and he avenged that one. So in terms of experience, the gulf is just massive. But Ben has
Talk to me about weight very quickly, Gareth, because we've got weight divisions in boxing for a reason. They've been campaigned at completely different weights. You know, Ben's more of a welterweight. We know what Eubank is all about. There's a big difference here. Now they're going to step into the ring, and I think, is it 160 pounds? This is being fought at middleweight with that rehydration clause. What kind of difference is that going to make to both fighters?
Well, I mean, it's where Eubank's comfortable, isn't it? He's fought up to, I think, 168, so he's well within his wheelhouse. Ben's last 2 fights have been 155 pounds, I think, so he has moved up a bit. But it's massive, isn't it? You look at welters fighting middleweights before, and you've got Amir Khan and Kell Brook have fallen short. So it's sort of uncharted territory for Ben for sure, and it's a big ask for him.
Now, Henry, they've moved the goalposts a little bit with the rehydration clause, which I think it really only comes in for sort of IBF world title fights, that rehydration clause. But they've built it into the contract here as perhaps a little bit of a leveller. Eubank is the older man, of course. There's more mileage on the clock with him. And we know with age and perhaps a difficulty at the weight, the punch resistance might just wane a little bit. Is that maybe the chink in the armour here?
Yeah, I think certainly. I think, at 35 years of age, I think without doubt, Eubank is past his best. And the defeat in the first fight to Liam Smith is a bit of a concern. I mean, it wasn't as if he was sort of caught cold and it was a shock punch. I mean, it was a really heavy knockout defeat, wasn't it? So I know he come back to beat Smith after that, but I do think that's a bit of a concern. Yeah, in that case, you would give Ben a chance, but I think Ben also has a lot of question marks, not just the weight. I mean, there's a whole host of his inactivity. He's only fought once in the last 14 months, three times since 2021. He's obviously not mixed it at the level that Eubank has, and I think also there's huge pressure. He's not even been involved in a fight night of this magnitude, so I think there's huge pressure on him on Saturday night for an inexperienced fighter. And certainly, just because he's unproven, that doesn't always have to be a negative. And if he was getting sort of 5-2, 9-4, you might think, yeah, I'll take a chance on Ben. But I think at sort of 7-4, he looks sort of at the bottom of his price for me, really.
Yeah, before we drill down into the market here, Gareth, I mean, Henry makes a quite a pertinent point there that, we think of Conor Benn as this big name, but he's not really at that main event. Eubank has been involved in a number of big fights. The two fights with Liam Smith, obviously that big fight with Billy Joe Saunders at the start of his career. He's been in with the Gal, Groves, some big names. It's not beyond the realms that it's a little bit overawing for Conor Benn as well on the night. It's going to be 65,000 people packed into the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's all a bit different to him.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I honestly don't think there's much more I can add to it there, really. Sort of covered everything. I mean, Ben just hasn't fought in this sort of arena before. But then again, he's a confident guy. He was pretty happy to get into the ring with Eubank after his last win. So I don't think it'll overawe him, but that has to be a worry. You're right.
Right, let's have a look at the market then, shall we? I mean, I'll cast back to the turn of the year, and this was almost a coin toss, this one, gentlemen. It's not far from that now. Big move for Eubank, in particular in recent days as well. He's now into as short as 8-15 in a place, generally around about 4-7 to win this fight outright. Ben, who was even money back in January, which is incredible, really. He's as big as 15-8 in a place, generally around about somewhere between 6-4 and 7-4. The draw as big as 20-1. Before we get your views on this fight, Henry, which we'll do at the end of the show, we'll tackle the undercard first. What are your thoughts on the market here? Everything is in the favour of Eubank. Size, weight, reach, everything. Surely the market's got it spot on.
Yeah, I think if I was planning on a match betting, I would certainly back Eubank. Having said that, if you're backing Eubank for the reasons that you think he's the far bigger man, the more powerful man, the more experienced, he's fought essentially he's fought at a better level, and you're saying he's a better fighter than Ben, and you think that it's not actually going to be that competitive because of all the factors that are in Eubank's advantage, then okay, you can back him at 4-7, and you're right, happy days, it's a winner. But personally, I'd be looking to side with him in different markets at a bigger price, maybe to be more dominant than the market expects. So you could look to back him at rounds 1-6, for example, at 5-1. You could look at back him at stoppage, which is going to be a bigger price. Because if you do believe that the reasons for thinking that Eubank's going to win a fight are all the ones we covered, then I think you may be better off just looking for a bigger price rather than taking sort of 4-7 on the fight, Ben.
Okay, yeah, certainly not a coin toss now. Right, before we get into the undercard, where, when and how can you watch this fight on Saturday night? 7 p.m-ish, we think the undercard's going to kick off. As I mentioned, there's 4 fights on the undercard. You will be able to watch this on the DAZN pay-per-view, Sky Sports box office. The main event, maybe a little bit hopeful, but could kick off at 10 p.m, depending on how things unfold on the undercard. So Saturday night, around about 10 p.m, we think the main event gets underway. 7 p.m. for the undercard. Gareth, what are your thoughts on the undercard? Some big names on here.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? Chris Smith's on there. But the one I like the Anthony Yard fight against Lyndon Arthur. So it's them completing a trilogy. But I think Arthur won the first one on points. He did. That was behind his jab. Yard wasn't on his form that night. I think he was dealing with some personal issues at the time. And then the rematch, he won inside 4 rounds, and I've got him winning inside the first sort of half of this fight again. Then there's Smith's on the undercard, who beat Eubank and then lost to him against a really good Irish guy, Aaron McKenna, who's 19-0. And I've got McKenna in that one as well.
Okay, right there. I think Liam Smith's going to be favourite for that fight, though, right?
He was, but the prices have switched around now, so McKenna's now odds on, and Smith is the slight underdog.
Okay, Henry, the fight I'm really looking forward to on this card is the British title fight between Viddal Riley, who burst onto the scene as somewhat a YouTube fighter, but is definitely a serious customer between the ropes, and Chev Clarke, who I've always been a big fan of. He's got some power. That is a serious fight. That's probably the tightest fight of all.
Yeah, I think so. And I thought actually the betting would be a little bit closer than it is. Obviously, Clarke was a bit disappointing when losing last time out in Saudi Arabia. But yeah, Riley's a pretty strong favourite. So I don't know if the market's giving you clues there. I personally don't have a strong opinion on who's going to win the fight. But yeah, perhaps the market making Riley a decent favourite for that fight is the clue that you need there, really.
Okay, right. Gareth has given us a little clue to his best bet on the undercard. What about yourself, Henry? Before I get to Gareth with his, who do you like?
Yeah, I like Chris Smith. I mean, obviously he lost his World Cruiserweight title to Gilberto Ramirez last time out, but Ramirez's only defeat in a 48 fight career came against Dimitri Bivol, who's obviously an elite level fighter. Biddam Smith had previously impressed when beating Lawrence Okole, and while Brandon Glandon was outpointed to David Light, and then David Light himself was then destroyed by Okole. So, there's a fair bit of collateral form there. I would say that Biddam Smith has absorbed quite a lot of punishment in his career, and that is the one concern for me. But I was a bit surprised not to see him, the Bournemouth fight, a little shorter than 5-6. And I thought that was the best bet on the undercards, Biddam Smith to beat Brandon Glandon.
Yeah, understatement of the century there that CBS has been involved in some wars. He has taken some punishment, that's for sure. Looking forward to that one. Gareth, what was your best bet on the undercard?
Yeah, Yard in the first half. I'm not sure they've priced it up for 1-6 yet, so maybe sort of split your stakes between the first 3 and then 4-6. But, I think that light heavyweight division now starting to open up a bit. Now you've sort of had Beterbiev and Bivol meet a couple of times, maybe one more. You've got Benavidez holding a title. A big win for Yard, and you put him right back in that picture for some titles, and I think he can do it. I think you can get rid of him in the first sort of 6 rounds.
Right, let's get to it then. The main event on Saturday night. To some, it's a gimmick fight. To me, it's a gimmick fight. But 2 big names of British boxing, 35 years after their father stepped through the ropes. Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn are going to go toe-to-toe. They've campaigned at different weights, but they're going to meet in the centre of the ring at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium on Saturday night. Henry Hardwicke of the Racing Post, give us your best bet of the fight.
Yeah, I think Conor Benn has to prove he can match the level of Chris Eubank Jr.'s abilities. He has questions to answer on the step up to middleweight and inactivity, and the Destroyer has to prove he can handle the occasion and the punch power of Junior. So I think at 6-4 back in Eubank to win by stoppage looks the best bet of the night for me.
Okay, Gareth Freeman joins us as well. Gareth, are you going to be with Henry or against him?
I'm going to be with him, but I'm going to push it a little bit further and go for Eubank in the second half of the fight, around 7-12. He's a big puncher, but it's more the kind of volume of punches and shots that gets you in the end with Eubank. And I think sort of Ben looks like he can hold up to the pressure for a little bit. So maybe the second half of the fight's where Eubank really gets the job done.
Okay, 2 strong votes for Chris Eubank Jr. then on Saturday night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It's an absolute belter. It's one that is going to gather momentum. The noise is going to get louder and louder as we approach 10 p.m. on Saturday night. This has been Racing Post Ringside. Make sure to enjoy your boxing, of course, on Saturday night. Gamble responsibly, and we'll see you next time.